Hello and welcome to TCI Behind the Scenes. I'm your host, Yasmin Rigby Blues, and we're getting closer to the Christmas season, a time where for some years now crime seemed to have been on the increase. So we had a word with the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Edward Hall. We'd like to find out, so far for the year, I know how it's been previously, and you can give us an idea basically of how it has been for those who don't know. Leading up to Christmas time, things that have been happening, ways in which that we can prevent them from happening, and what's it looking like so far for this year?
Thank you, Yasmin, and I'm pleased to be on your show. As it relates to crime overall, I think it's only fair that I give you a sort of general perspective and then move on to your question. Mm-hmm. As it relates to crime for the first third quarter of 2007, which is January to September, I am pleased to report that we have had, and in fact recorded, a reduction in crime by some 2%. I'm also pleased to say, as it relates to the figures for October, we've certainly recorded some 18% reduction when compared to last year. And last year's figures were relatively low compared to the year before that. So what I can report is that crime is certainly on the decline as it relates to the figures that we have had for the last 2 years. In terms of the activity leading up to Christmas, well, we are in the last days or last hours of November, and as it relates to an increase for this month, no, we've not seen that as yet. And this is the period when I think it's fair to say the criminal element will have more lucrative, more or less, targets. Mm-hmm. And we have, as a police force, based on our experience, catered for increased presence as it relates to the targets that we know would and sort of be vulnerable, and in terms of step-up patrols, more police officers, covert and overt. So I just want people to understand that there may be times you don't see us, but we are about. And we've certainly taken on the challenge as it relates to our goal of certainly having reduced crime in the Turks and Caicos Islands throughout, and we've taken it seriously in terms of trying to make sure that we have people in place to respond and to deal with any situation that may arise. So I am very, very optimistic in terms of the figures that has been presented so far and the plans that we have in place to make sure that we have a safe and happy Christmas. And I just would ask persons out there who are proprietors of establishment to take every precaution to make sure they are safe and to not expose themselves to danger. We, as I said, would be doing some covert work, and we'll be doing some overt work, and we'll be doing some increased work. And it is our hope that we'll be able to do sufficient to make sure that everyone is safe for the holidays.
Now, I know there's been a call for more and more police officers, and especially native persons, to come forward to join the ranks. Over the past 2 years, as you said, that we've been seeing a decline. How many more police officers would you round it out that we have increased?
We have an establishment that calls for 250 officers. We are not quite there yet. We have had quite a bit of interest, and I would say interest more so from non-belongers as opposed to belongers. But fortunately, I would say for the second half of this year, we have had quite a bit of belonger interest, mm-hmm. and that is a good thing, and a sign that belongers now are looking towards policing and or law enforcement as a challenging career, which I applaud them for. And this December, as a matter of fact, we will be sending some 20 recruits to Nassau for training, and that is the highest that we've ever mm-hmm. sent anywhere for training. So I think we're looking good in terms of persons showing interest and coming forward. The numbers, perhaps some people would not say, you'll ever have enough. Mm-hmm. But we are always reviewing what we have in terms of what our needs would be like. And as I speak, there is a review in progress to determine our needs as it relates to the Marine section of the police force. And I don't want to preempt what they're going to say, but I would believe it might result in an increase. And so as it relates to getting the establishment on track with what we have, we've got a couple of more officers to be able to fill that vacancy, those vacancies that exist.
Okay. And on average, how many do you normally send off for training?
On average, we've been sending 10, 11, 13. 14 was, in fact, 16 was the most that we sent to Nassau during the time we've been training there. And we've had the opportunity to send 14 to Barbados. So 20 is the max that, well, it's the highest amount of recruits that we've had in the history of the force as I know it, really.
And this would only call for those new recruits, not for those who have been here for a while. What sort of training do they get?
Those who have been here for a while, there's a in-house training department that caters for training more or less throughout the year. Mm-hmm. And there will be training that's ongoing at home, as well as training overseas. And we've had quite a number of training done overseas, Nassau, Jamaica, Barbados, and Lucia, the Bahamas, again, not only recruit training, but also advanced training.
Okay.
And we've had the privilege of training our senior command team in management in the United Kingdom. As a matter of fact, as we speak, we've got 2 officers in the UK, Assistant Superintendent Wayne Jones and Superintendent Alboyne Williams. As a matter of fact, the Deputy Commissioner just concluded a command course again this year, also in the United Kingdom. And so, you know, the ongoing training is certainly a critical part of our management in the police force to get our officers up to speed with management and or delivering the service that we are constitutionally compelled to deliver to Turks and Caicos Islands people.
Well, it's good to know that the training is ongoing, but there is something that I think a lot of people want to know about. They may get a lot of book learning. What about physical training?
Physical training. I don't want to quiz you in terms of to what extent you're querying
Having
that.
them go to the gym to stay in shape so
Yes,
that when they
yes.
have to run after anyone, you know, we can feel safer.
A very good question, and we are exploring the possibility of a permanent in-house trainer. We've been doing some work on that, and I'm hopeful that that will come on next financial year. But we've got officers enrolled in a gym in Grand Turk, for instance, and there is a gym in Providenciales that the police officers own. And so it is strictly voluntary.
Okay.
And from time to time, I speak to officers and advise them to take care of their bodies in terms of what they put into it and how they treat it. And I try to lead by example because I exercise just about every weekday, and I encourage them to do likewise. And I hope it shows that I do that, and that they would, you know, just learn from example. But we try our best to offer that to them, and as I said, it's voluntary. And I don't want to go down the road to make it mandatory, but it's a voluntary thing that I think from time to time I've seen improvement in terms of persons stepping up to really do it.
Okay. Now back onto more serious matters. What would you say would be the cause for the decline in criminal activities here?
Well, I don't want to seem to be braggadocious or anything, but I think I would, in this instance, give credit to the men and women of the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force who step up to the plate in terms of doing what we challenge ourselves to do in terms of reducing crime and trying to reduce the fear of crime. And by our stand in terms of ensuring that we make these islands as safe as possible for those persons who live, work, and visit. We have really in terms of our resources, directed our resources to deliver that part of our goal to the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands. And what I would say is that we have set for ourselves a goal to reduce, for instance, burglary and thefts are the most prevalent crime committed in these islands. And we certainly set for ourselves a goal this year to reduce burglary. And I can report now that burglary is reduced by some 18% for the last, for the third quarter that I mentioned. And it is because we have really concentrated on reducing burglaries, and that is a success. And certainly, by the same token, a reduction in burglary means that we are out and about more than we normally be. And the villains would have seen that and stand dread, and as a result, we've gotten that result. So we are concentrating our resources and all our efforts in trying to prevent crime more so than having to detect crime.
Okay, and what about financial crimes?
Financial crime, unfortunately, is a fact of life in these islands. I'm sure you are aware of the fact that we have a unit that is actually responsible for investigating financial crimes. And that unit is headed by Assistant Superintendent Mark Knighton, who's an officer on contract from the United Kingdom. There has been some increase in the activity as it relates to white-collar crime being reported. The department or the unit is doing an excellent job in terms of investigating these matters. And I would say that at the end of the day, people would understand that even though you're not burglarizing someone's home or moving property out of a vehicle, if you do it in a way that you don't think you'll get caught, we're still going to be looking at you, and the idea is to catch you.
Okay. How long has this unit been going?
The financial crime unit has been going now for the last, 10 years, I think it is, 10 years, yes. Okay. And we've always been fortunate to have someone from a reputable police force in the UK heading it. Actually, it was supposed to, at the end of the day, be handed down to someone, a local officer, but that local officer happened to be Superintendent Sharon Whitaker, who was recently promoted, the first female that is to be promoted to that rank. And therefore, it would simply mean that we'll have to continue with Superintendent Mark Knighton, who's doing an excellent job, I must say. And at the end of the day, the person who would have been next to Superintendent Whitaker would be brought up to speed to take over that unit.
I know a part of the concern is also the emails that have been sent around from places like Nigeria and all that, and the police had to get involved at one point and issue a notice. Do you find, I know that some people are still getting those letters, but do you know of any more recently who have actually answered and tried to get a hold of some of that money that meant that their accounts were being siphoned from?
Well, I hope people would have taken the warnings that we publicly issued about these persons, especially from the country you mentioned. I have to deal with them just about every day on my email, and suddenly just ignore them, delete them. And that is what I advise people to do. Don't ever decide that you're going to assist these people because the only thing they want from you is your money. They have absolutely nothing to give you. And I hope they would understand that and not be trapped or led into believing that there is something real out there, because those emails are just fake and they're trying to get your money. Financial crime has done a good job in terms of trying to educate people about this. I have not received any report about people recently being more or less led into this scam and losing money. If it is happening, I would advise them to reconsider and not to even think about going down this road.
Okay. And you mentioned the recent promotion of Inspector Whitaker, and I think that was a pretty good move on behalf of the Royal Police Force. Not only because she's a woman, but also because she's a friend of mine. So kudos to her. But what other promotions have we had recently?
Well, I mean, superintendent with
Yes.
so she's as I said, well, she actually was the first female inspector as well as the first female superintendent promoted, and I would say yes, because she's a friend of yours, but certainly it's that she is deserving of it, and that's one of the reasons why she got it. There have not been really any other major promotions recently. There will be, I'm sure, maybe early in the year, next year. But there are always opportunities for promotion within the organization. And you may not know, but we do so based on a criteria, and one of those criteria is passing a promotion exam. And promotion examination for the force will be taking place in February. And we've had over 50 participants in the constable to sergeant examination, and the sergeant to inspector examination. We've got something like 18 persons vying for those lucrative positions that are presenting themselves.
Oh, we're going to find out what this lucrative thing is all about when we come back. Welcome back to TCI Behind the Scenes, and we're here talking with the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Edward Hall, and we left off talking about how lucrative the new positions are. So tell me, we've had increases recently for police officers, right? And to make the part even more interesting for persons thinking about joining the force?
Well, yes, we've had some increases. There was the historic 30% increase, and I don't want to label that too much, because when you get 30%, you get 30% of what, and that's the question. But the point is that it was a first. It was certainly appreciated by the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force, and in addition, a year after that, in fact, the beginning of the following year, we got an increase in allowances. And that too was very, very needed, I would say, for us all. Mm-hmm. And we're really thankful to the government for providing those increases. And when I talk about lucrative positions and opportunities, mostly, I mean, as you know, in the service, you work until you get a certain age. Mm-hmm. There are a number of us who are in senior positions, rapidly